Hello and welcome to my Friday roundup. I've missed a couple of Fridays due to being away, so I hope you missed me. 2 weeks ago I was down in London at the amazing One Voice conference. This is a conference for voiceover artists, and this year it was held as a hybrid event with some attendees in the room and others online. I was one of the speakers, which I thoroughly enjoyed, and my talk was on the topic of finding funding for a voiceover business. On the third evening of the conference we had the One Voice Awards. I was shortlisted in 2 categories, and although I didn't win, as there were over 3,200 entries, just being a finalist put me in the top 4% of entrants, so I was pretty pleased with that. Before I went away, I hosted a workshop with Catherine Maskell from TPD Marketing on repurposing content, and she told us how it's possible to repurpose content, for example from a blog, in up to 14 different ways. I shall now be creating content with repurposing in mind. Last weekend I was away for the bank holiday in Whitby. My son was taking part in the Whitby at War event, which is an annual event held on the cliff top near the Abbey. I didn't actually attend the event myself as my dog isn't keen on the gunfire, but we could still hear the bangs from several miles away. On the Small Business Big Network podcast this week, you can hear an interview with Hannah Thompson. Hannah works for Heritage Lincolnshire and also runs the Development Partner Network, who organise expos and networking events. Last year, Hannah also set up an online networking and support group for people with conditions such as fibromyalgia, which was very important during the lockdown. On Tuesday this week, I met with Chris Jacobson from Slice Marketing in Hull. Rather than a Zoom call, we had a real-life face-to-face meeting, which was such a novelty. During the course of our chat, I mentioned my podcast, and Chris is keen to be a guest, so you'll be hearing more about him and his business in due course. Zoom is still playing a role in my business though, even though we can meet face-to-face again. Earlier this week, I attended a BNI meeting in Toronto, which definitely wouldn't have been possible without Zoom. I was invited by Carrie Adelstein and I met some great people who I'll be having one-to-ones with in the near future. Thanks for the invitation, Carrie. I've been a member of the Voiceover Network for a number of years, and most weeks they host the Voiceover Hour. This is an hour-long webinar, usually with a guest speaker, and it's open to members and non-members alike. This week's speaker was voiceover artist and voiceover coach Tanya Rich. Tanya was one of my fellow speakers at the One Voice conference and is well worth listening to, as she has a wealth of experience in the industry. She also has amazing purple hair. Today I've been a guest on Andrew Jacobs' podcast, which is called Women Talking About Learning. Andrew and I are both members of the global learning and development community, and he wanted to record an episode about podcasting. He invited Heidi Kirby, who hosts the Block podcast, that's Building, Learning and Organisational Culture podcast, and myself, to chat about our respective shows. Although the show is hosted by Andrew, he doesn't get involved in the conversations himself. He leaves all the talking to his guests. What a smart man. If you want to hear our episode, it will be broadcast on Tuesday. That's all for this week. Join me again next Friday for another Roundup.